It's not uncommon for people to have a toxic friend or friends while growing up. The kind of friends that emotionally manipulate you through guilt tripping / peer pressure, things like that, especially around middle school age, early teens. Although, because these people are still young and may not realize what they're doing is toxic, that still doesn't change the fact that it is toxic. Toxic friendships are common enough in real life that they've been portrayed in animated series countless times. In Amphibia's case, it's represented by Miss Sasha Waybright. But before we get into discussing Sasha, I've noticed for a long time now that most of the people who watch my content aren't actually subscribed to my channel, so please consider subscribing if you find my content on a regular basis. It helps out a lot more than you might think, and you'll be able to see my content way easier than before. So prior to her official speaking debut, the audience was given a general idea of Sasha's personality from within the first 2 episodes. She would always peer pressure Anne to do things she didn't want to do, like giving her new shoes, pencil cases, or even to steal the Calamity Box. Anne always followed through on these things because she was afraid they would no longer be friends if she refused to follow through. Granted, at the time of this episode coming out, I didn't think what Anne said was solely about Sasha because we still had no information about Marcy's personality. So there was a chance Marcy could have been just as bad, if not worse than Sasha in terms of toxicity. And man, I'm glad that turned out to be false. But at the end of the episode, Best Franz is where the audience got to see where Sasha ended up after being transported to Amphibia, so I suppose that could be classified as more evidence that Anne was mainly referring to Sasha while ranting to Sprig. It wasn't until the season 1 episode Prison Break, aka the mid-season finale, where we got to see Sasha's manipulation at work. Her main manipulation tactic is to give others compliments so they'll like her and eventually do stuff for her. And a lot of the time, these compliments aren't genuine, but it doesn't matter to her as long as she gets what she wants. Even though Toad Tower is home to some of the roughest / toughest toads in Amphibia, she had no problem wrapping the guards there around her finger. Take Percy, for example. Showing Sasha his skills with several instruments trying to impress her, she encourages him to follow his dreams to be a performer and quit working for Grime, which he did until the giant herons chased him back into the tower. Although Sasha seemed interested on the surface, she was only doing this so Grime would have less people working for him, so it would be easier for her to leave Toad Tower and find Anne and Marcy. Once the herons began to charge the tower, one of them broke into Sasha's cell. She was able to make the heron retreat using her moves as the head cheerleader. Her being head cheerleader at St. James is pretty fitting for a character like her in my opinion. Usually head cheerleader type characters in animation are the popular girls with the mean personality, but of course Sasha is a bit more complex than that. She agrees to help Grime get rid of the herons if he agrees to grant her freedom. Of course, all of the soldiers in the tower are freaking out about the herons, and I don't blame them, to be honest. Grime's yelling just makes things worse, which is why Sasha steps in. She taught him how to emotionally manipulate his soldiers. He gave them baseless compliments that he didn't mean at all. The soldiers didn't know that though, so they became super motivated to fight back anyway. Once the herons were defeated, Grime and Sasha came to another agreement that she would help rebuild Toad Tower, as well as serve as Grime's second in command instead of leaving all by herself. Can I just say how perfect Grime and Sasha are together as a duo? And when I say perfect, I mean in the worst way possible. They're both power-hungry bullies that were able to work together instead of being at each other's throats, and that is very scary. At the end of the episode, Sasha did seem genuinely concerned for her friend's well-being still, which is why at the same time I think all the emotional manipulation she did wasn't necessarily intentional, kind of a subconscious thing potentially taught through bad parenting. When the season 1 finale episode Reunion aired, we got to see the events that eventually led up to Anne stealing the Calamity Box. The day they were transported to Amphibia was Anne's birthday, believe it or not. Anne was on her way to school when a girl named Maggie started messing with her. Sasha swept in to save Anne by threatening to not invite Maggie to her house party next week where everyone would be enjoying the pool without her. It seems though Sasha must be at least somewhat wealthy if her house has a pool big enough for a whole class of kids to enjoy it together. So emotional manipulation isn't her only way to get people on her side, but manipulation through wealth too. Of course a kid is going to want to go to a pool party at a presumed mansion. If I was Maggie's age, I probably would have backed off too, if it meant going to a pool party. Her high society family life could be the reason she acts in such a rebellious manner towards authority figures as well. Ditching school, spray painting graffiti in alleyways, riding shopping carts through random sidewalks, always completing stare dare challenges. Her parents probably never gave her proper discipline. I wouldn't be surprised if a nanny took care of her for most of her childhood. Throughout this whole ditching school montage, Anne doesn't seem to be having nearly as much fun as Sasha does. But of course she doesn't want to get on her bad side. That almost happens later on anyway when Sasha gets pissed at Anne for trying to go home to the birthday party her family is throwing. Look, I get it. When you're in middle school, hanging out with your family over your friends is cringe. Yeah. But give her a break, woman. She already ditched school with you and broke the law while ditching. You can really see how much fear Sasha is able to instill into Anne with that end of discussion statement. The fear of losing the best friend she had since kindergarten if she kept insisting on leaving. The fear of being outcast by the rest of her classmates due to Sasha's powerful social status. The fear of her family's disappointment even by agreeing to go with her. It's a lot of negative emotions that could be too much for some to handle themselves. Sasha never cared about the citizens of Amphibia either. Even though Hop Pop and the Planners are the reason Anne has been able to live with company in Amphibia all this time, they meant nothing to Sasha. If making an example out of Hop Pop helped her get the hell out and back home, so be it. They're just slimy little frogs after are all right. Sasha pulled the same stunt on Anne again when Anne attempted to help the Wartwood citizens escape from the tower. Sasha attempting to slice Sprig was the final straw that allowed Anne to finally stand up to her, because Sprig is a real friend. He deserved to be saved. Although their duel was close, Anne was the one victorious at the end. As Toad Tower began to collapse, Sasha almost falls to her demise until Anne grabs her arm. The planners help to prevent Anne from falling too. In the end, Sasha decides Anne is better off without her and willingly lets go of Anne's hand. She passes out in midair, gets saved by Grime, and then taken away into the wild with the rest of the Toad Army. A lot of time had passed before Sasha made her first Season 2 appearance. I really wanted to believe Sasha did what she did out of some twisted act of kindness to relieve Anne of their toxic friendship, and her passing out and staying on Grime's side was due to potential amnesia from the fall. But nope, she remembered literally everything. She had been on the run with Grime, training non-stop for her next encounter with Anne. She wanted to be strong enough to take on the whole Planner family and Anne by herself, even setting up training dummies of all 4 of them to destroy. So even at the brink of death, Sasha still couldn't show genuine emotion to Anne. If she really meant she was better off without her, then why does she want to have another rematch deathmatch? In a way, that loss liberated Sasha. Before, it seemed like she didn't realize what she was doing was toxic, but now she kind of does and is embracing it to the core. She was even able to motivate Grime back to his former self because Grime is the only one she can count on now. Of course, the only other person who would stick by her is someone as twisted as she is. I guess multiplying 2 negatives really can make a positive if you want to count the friendship between those two as a positive, that is. But I do definitely like the way they interact. They just have screwed up ideals. Very screwed up ideals. I really want to see how Matt and the team manage to redeem her. I know I've probably said that a lot, but it's one of the main things I'm really looking forward to before the series concludes. She has to get redeemed, otherwise the girls won't be able to get home. It's just a matter of how they're going to make someone as toxic as her likable as a person again without it feeling like an asshole. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I have faith in the gang. It doesn't even have to be by the end of this season either. I can be patient. I think that just about does it for this video though. Although I don't like Sasha that much as a person, she's definitely a solid written character. She's not your typical popular girl bully. She's got way more depth to her. And I hope her character gets to be explored even more in depth in the future. Maybe we'll even get a canon reason as to why she acts in such a toxic way towards others. I'd love to see that. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on Sasha's character. How do you think they could redeem her in the future? I would love to know your thoughts. Per usual, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like down below and a second reminder to subscribe if you haven't. And I will see you guys next time. Peace out. Take care. Bye-bye.